So what does Flatwater have to do with advanced playboating? It actually has a lot to do with it. A lot of the moves in Flatwater require a lot of skill, requires balance and natural reactions to be correct, or you're not going to succeed with them. Also, the Flatwater moves will really help you with the whitewater moves because it gives you a chance to balance in the flat water and really learn your proper basics and reactions. The first advanced move we're going to learn in Flatwater is the bow stall. Now the bow stall is unique because your natural reactions when you're bow stalling are opposite of what they should be. You have to train yourself to react with your body correctly. Here's how you do a bow stall. Step 1, get the boat vertical. Step 2, get your hands as far from the boat as possible and get the blade open face. In other words, the power face of the blade should be facing the bottom of the river. Keep your body and your head as close to the water as possible. Your objective is to initiate vertical and then do not move a muscle. The reason for not moving right away is you want to isolate individual movements. If you move all around, move your paddle and move your body, what's going to happen is you're not going to figure out what movement is doing what. When you're vertical on the bow, there's a key body movement you need to understand, and that is if you lift your body up or down, what happens. So when you're on your bow, if you're going too vertical, push your head and body down into the water. That pulls your feet back out in front of you again. If you're going too flat and you feel like your bow is going to lift up and fall out of the water, lean back and push weight on your feet. That pushes the bow back down. As far as your paddle goes, as far away from the boat as you can. If you're falling over on the right, push down on the right blade. If you're falling on the left, push down on the left blade. Once you get a little more experience, you can actually push and pull the bow around and slice it through like a knife and slice it in a position to keep your balance. But in the beginning, keep your movements to a minimum. The stern stall is actually easier than the bow stall in a lot of ways because you can turn your body into a kickstand for your boat. Now how do you do that? Well, you initiate your stern off of a cartwheel or a squirt and you lay your body back in the water. Now you're balancing on the body that's floating in the water as well as the boat. The keys for this stern stall are the same as the bow stall. If you're going too vertical, push your body down in the water, pushing your feet away. If you're going too flat, lift your body out of the water and lift up on your knees. That'll pull you more vertical. I recommend paddle over your head. That way you've got your paddle and arms in the water. Again, something extra to balance on. The easiest way to get on the stern stall is off the cartwheel. Can you believe who would have ever thought that one day we'd be doing loops in Flatwater? Well, with our new boats, here it is. The technique for the loop is number 1, make sure you have a really good bow stall. And number 2 is to learn the best way to bounce your boat up and down. This is the hardest part about the Flatwater loop. Now, my recommendation is you always do the loop with a minimum number of bounces. I try to do my loop off the second bounce every time. So, to get a big bounce on your second bounce, get in a bow stall, reach your paddle way out from the boat. Now push your paddle under the water and pull up on the paddle, driving your body and boat under the water. Then push your paddle back down, standing on your foot braces. Now one more time, reach under the water, pull yourself deep, take your paddle up and out of the water, tuck, and flip yourself over, just like a loop in a hole. Now if you want to eke out a loop that isn't particularly good in the beginning, you're going to want to drop an edge and pull that stern under hard with a stern initiation stroke, essentially doing a Space Godzilla. Once you get the bounce better and you get your timing right, you can start straightening that loop out and eventually you can do a straight over the top loop. The lean clean is simply learning to transfer your weight and the edges of your boat in a way that allows the boat to go vertical. This is an edge control exercise that is absolutely critical for all of your playboating that has to do with getting vertical. You start with the lean clean by learning how to get the stern underwater. How do you do it? You drop an edge, put some weight on your stern, and your stern goes under. But what you really want is the stern to scoop. To get that scoop, you need to drop your edge, lean back, and lift your edge. Now what happens? Notice your boat turns. Your next step is do the same thing on your bow. You drop your edge on your bow, put weight on your bow, the bow goes under. You lift the edge quickly, it scoops out the other side. Now for it to work, you need to do that edge transfer very quickly. What do I mean by that? lean back on your stern, drop your edge, lift the stern almost immediately. If you wait too long, the stern bobs out the way it came. Now what are you looking for ultimately? How do you know when your lean clean is going well? You can link the bow and stern together. What does that look like? Ultimately, those are flatwater cartwheels with no paddle. When you first look at this, you may think this is an advanced move, but in fact, you can learn this extremely easy, and this is the shortest cut you've got to learning to get your boat vertical in flatwater, in holes, or even on waves. Now we have a couple tricks that Steve Fisher and I made. The first one was Steve's move called the party trick. Imagine that. Now the party trick is nothing other than a way to go from upside down to vertical on your bow in one stroke. The technique for this is to be upside down, have your paddle on the surface of the water out to the side. You're going to take your right blade, push down with it a little bit with the power face just to give you a little bit of force so that you can start your hip snap. Now just as your hips are rotated almost 90 degrees, you simply initiate the bow under with your left blade. All you're really doing is initiating your bow in flatwater, but by starting upside down, in order to initiate it, you have to hip snap at least 90 degrees. The 0 to hero is an awful lot like the party trick, except you're going to come up on the stern instead of the bow. The tip here, set up like you're doing a sweep roll. Start sweeping the paddle out away from the boat a little bit. Hip snapping up to 90 degrees, and as soon as your hip snap to 90, do a hard stern initiation stroke, which will pull the stern under you, set you up in a stern stall. Very cool move. Add a little squirt pirouette thing on the end, and you've got a beautiful looking move.